Welcome to Power Hour, where the editors of Powersports Business interview the movers and shakers of the powersports industry.
Hi, I'm Brendan Baker with Powersports Business, and we're here at the Parts Unlimited Drag Specialties NVP show, which I used to know what MVP stands for, and I don't remember now. But anyway, we're with Maggie Stevens,
Hi.
who is with ARS Powersports, and she was also our Women with Spark winner last year.
Yes, 2023 was a good year.
It was. So what do you think of this show? This is your first time
This
to
is.
any Parts Unlimited
Yes.
shows?
It
Okay.
is my first show. So normally I go to AIM, so first
Yeah.
time coming. I'll be honest, I actually really like it. A little bit better than AIM, don't tell anyone. Only
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm getting a little bit more face time with the brands, and surprisingly I've been able to get like really geeky level detail as a parts manager. That's what helps me sell.
Yeah.
So I've been able to get really geeky level detail so that I feel like when I'm able to go back home, we'll be able to sell
When
better.
you say geeky level detail, like part numbers,
Oh, okay.
SKUs,
That's a
new
good point.
product, what are you looking for? When you're coming to the show,
yeah,
what
what am I
is
looking for?
your priority, your
Okay.
task,
So I care about a couple things. I care about how can I make it easier for my guys to sell? So my department's really small. It's me, two other guys at the counter, and one receiver. We have a very small department, and we have really big goals. So last year we hit $1 million over the counter. This
That's
year
good.
we're trying to hit 1.2, 1.5 in that bubble.
Yeah.
So when you don't have more people, you have to be more efficient. So I'm always looking, how can I make it easier for my guys to sell? Is it a QR code? Is it a way of merchandising something? Is it the fact that I was dealing with FMF exhaust,
Mhm.
and he was telling me about one of their exhausts that it has like a 20-year part number span. So I was like, oh, that's great. So little things that can just make it simpler and faster for us to sell. And the reason why I prioritize that is because the way we've marketed to our customers is we want to be the trusted person that they come to. Like, they know we're going to sell them something,
Yeah.
but we also need to be able to sell with, compassion and, ethics, so that if we run into them, we're not like, don't look at me, right?
Right.
So.
Now you guys are in Florida, right?
Yes, we're in Florida.
You're in is it a big town, little town?
Little town. So Okeechobee, we joke we have more cows than humans. We are now up to, I think, like 6 streetlights in the town.
Oh, geez.
So very small.
And you did $1 million out of a small town,
Yes.
small time dealer.
I'm so proud of my guys. My guys are amazing.
Are these all like repeat guys? I mean, do you have a lot of
Yes.
like regular customers? How's that?
So when I started 5, almost 6 years ago. What I inherited, the dealership in the parts department was making $230 a year. So I went from $230 to $1 million. And my average retention ratio is 38%. So I've maintained that 5 years running. I haven't hit 40. Kind of drives me nuts, if I'm going to be honest. But
you're like a numbers person.
I love
you?
numbers.
You seem to be like very keyed in on those metrics. And
so
maybe you should have been like an Olympian or something,
Well, my sports is air filters.
There you go. Yeah. Maybe that'll be an Olympic sport in LA.
Oh, I would crush it. Honestly, the reason why I wasn't always this number driven, but when you're in a sea of stuff, when you have people coming to you and you're trying to do all of these things, it gets overwhelming. And you're like, okay, well, what do I need to stock? What do I need to do? What's trending? The only way to answer any of that is by looking at what you're actually selling.
Right.
So years and years ago, when I first got into the industry, I couldn't tell you any numbers. I was terrible.
You don't dream part numbers or anything?
No, I can't remember my grocery list, but I can remember an air filter part number. But it proved to be, over time, it makes my life simpler. And so all these little hacks over the years have made my life simpler. And in return, because I have more brain space, I can give better customer service. So that's why I've become the numbers guy.
So you're not spending as much time chasing the little things because you've got a system that you can kind of rely on.
Years. We
and
joke
then you can start
year.
looking ahead. You can,
every year we start off the year with what is the low hanging fruit, and it's not just me. So I ask every one of my guys, even though there's only 4 of us, we all get together in the back room and we're like, okay.
Are they as geeky as you about this stuff?
They were not when they first hired them, but then they realized this is how their life is a lot simpler, and then they took to it like a duck to water.
Right.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, it can be this much simpler. I'm like, yeah, let's make it simple.
Okay.
Right? Because my guys don't come from the industry. So my one of my lead guys, James, he was not in the industry at all. He was in cars a little bit, and then before that, he was in warehouse management.
Oh, okay.
Cole, my younger guy at the counter, he just grew up with a love of dirt bikes and working on stuff himself. And then Sam, my receiver, he is just from the warehouse industry. So no industry experience. So I'm taking someone that's like, cool, that's an air filter, now what? And I'm training them. And so you could make it really complicated, but I want them to stay. And they've been with me, some of them have been with me for years. So as a way to make their lives simpler, their lives better, and therefore their paychecks better, we put systems in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, because that way everyone knows kind of the expectations.
Yes.
You're all on the same page.
Yes.
I've kind of done some of that myself on some of the things that we do. It's like, hey, let's not kill ourselves over this. Let's just have a unified, we use Google Docs, and we use
I love Google Docs.
The whatever the Excel
Google Drive
sheet,
and Google Excel,
Google Excel, and just all those things that we can track, so that we communicate, but we don't need to communicate over all the little stuff. You can communicate about the big stuff.
Well, and so one thing that's really nice that's different for a show in particular, obviously I go home with swag, because who doesn't like swag?
Yeah.
But I go.
It's a lot of swag.
I love the swag.
Yeah.
But you also go for like the brochures, so perfect example. I've been selling VP race gas for years. I didn't know they had like this product book. It was, 20 pages or whatever.
Yeah.
And it had all the specs on every single one of their products. I was like, oh my God, like I sounded so dumb, but I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And the rep at the VP tent, he's like, we've always had this. What do you mean? And I'm like, I've never even knew it existed.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean? We give it to the so-and-sos. I'm like, well, it never makes it down to me.
Oh, right.
So a real big benefit is like, I'm able to take the catalogs, take the brochures, take that stuff back home to my guys. They geek out over it because, again, it makes it easy for them to sell.
And you're seeing this stuff because you go, well, this stuff, we sell this already, and I can see, and then you're gonna, you can just have that conversation right there with that rep or that, the manufacturer itself.
I think it was last year. Don't quote me on it, but I went to the Engine Ice booth. We sell a lot of their stuff, right? We're off-road, a lot of Engine Ice. So we were selling their stuff, and they were coming out with their new temperature variants. I remember the color is orange.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on anything else, right? But like, I knew about that at the show. By the time it made it to my reps, it was 7 months.
Oh.
So my reps, and I love my reps to pieces, my reps have given me advice that helped me get to where I'm at today. But it's just sometimes the distribution of information is so slow and has to pass through so many hands that it could be 6 months or a year before it gets to my dealership.
Yeah.
So I get to bypass.
You mean you're not calling that guy up in 10 minutes?
I do now.
I
do now. I get cards and I'm like, hey, what do I need to know?
Yeah.
I was talking with another vendor today. My first question is, what do I need to know? What's new? And sometimes it's, I was with Motion Pro earlier, and they had this, it's the silliest thing in the world, but it'll make my life so much simpler. They have this push rivet clip remover. We've been using a flathead screwdriver. I didn't know it existed.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, yeah, we've had this forever. And I'm like, oh. So it's just little things like that.
Yeah, they have some nice tools over
really
there.
Cool tools. But it's little things like that if you're not in person, you can't manufacture that.
Right.
So
yeah, you can't. You just don't find that on. You have to be there in person to see it.
It makes it so much simpler.
Yeah.
So much simpler. And so
you
much
think
faster.
there's a lot of value in coming to these shows in person at least once or twice, or you're here at every show. You're at
any show. I mean,
this is your first show, but you've gone to in the last couple of years quite a few shows. So
only because I've seen. Go back to numbers. I've seen the correlation of I go to a show. I learn the information, I take it back to my guys. My guys are calmer and happier because they're not all frantic and spastic trying to figure out how to sell or what to sell or where to find the information. So therefore, my guys make more money, my department makes more money, and so it's this loop that constantly is in a circle.
And because you're getting educated on this that you can share with your team that then makes them better, it's the investment's worth it.
Oh, it's so worth it. So worth it.
So. And that's what people kind of lose in the thing, because everyone's like, oh, go to this show, but there's the why has been missing for a lot.
Well, I intentionally go to a show to learn and earn. like if I can do fun stuff, like don't get me wrong, I did go to Harley. I went to the Harley Museum. I have fun.
Oh yeah, you got to go to the Harley Museum.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not like that level. I'm geeky, but I'm not that geeky, right? But my intention is to go learn, and then I earn. And then if I can have fun on top of it, great. So the first year I went to AIM in Vegas, I didn't do anything fun. And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't me trying to be geeky. It was just I was so focused on learning that the second year I went back, I'm like, okay, now I can go have some fun because I've seen this vendor before and I can say hi and check in with them, but I'm not desperate for information this time.
Right.
So as it goes,
you're kind of more up to date anyway. So then you're
yes.
just looking for little tidbits.
Exactly.
But you know, it's out there for sure.
Yeah.
And then you can go gamble more. I don't gamble. See, I go to Vegas. I don't
for the food.
Most of the time I go, I don't even drop anything in there. I'll call my wife and be like, she's like, did you gamble? I'm like, no.
No.
Yeah. So
no, I went for the food.
Yeah. I like the food. And, you know, I mean, there's some people watching is fun there.
Yeah.
You know, just all the
only reason why I don't do any of the shows is because, again, you're at this huge convention, so much people, so much talking that I need a little disconnect time.
Absolutely.
So I use that as like, you know, if I'm not doing a dinner or something like that, I use that as like my downtime to like recenter and then have the energy to go do it the next day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we appreciate you coming. I'm glad you've come out to these shows and that you've taken your kind of own time to just make yourself better, but also you're helping a lot of other people in the industry by showing what can be done.
I think a lot of like the vendors, like they put a lot of work into their stuff. So
they do. Look at all these guys here. They've set up. They've done 2 days of setup.
Yeah.
A lot of them, and you know
all the merchandising they're doing, all the printing,
and all the time and energy that it takes to be here.
Yeah.
They want to talk to you.
Yeah.
They want to talk to people like you. They don't care necessarily about the green press badges, but you know. They'll talk to us, but they really want to talk to people like you.
No, I love anything that they're willing to give.
Yeah.
And it just makes our lives so much simpler. And if we can have a better relationship with them, then everyone wins. The customer benefits because they're getting a product that they actually need and actually matches what their desires are.
Yeah.
We win because we get to stay brick and mortar. And then the vendors win because they have consistent, reliable growth.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, if you're looking at the positive point of it and kind of, you know, Pollyanna.
You think there's a lot more growth in your small town with what you can do, or what do you see?
That's a good question. So, do
you have to outreach to further, you know, make your reach farther to bring more people in?
So for us, I know, I could be honest, for me to hit that 1.5 million magical number, again, I'm competing against myself at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at anyone else. I may look for inspiration, but that's it.
Yeah.
So to hit that magical 1.5 number, I think part of it's going to be systems, which is funny because all I do is talk about systems, right? But I think it's little things of like, how at the end of the customer transaction can we be better? Because I think we could get better at that, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. We're good, but there's still room to grow there. And then the other part of it too is I used to be an independent before I was at a dealership. So I've been growing my network of independents that I work with. I set them up with wholesale accounts. I make it easy for them to buy from me, and then we share. Yeah. So if I have something they need, if they have something we need, it's this actual relationship where they can call me, they can text me.
And if they need an OEM part, they can buy from you.
But so there's this one dealership in particular. They lost one of their OEM lines, and so now they buy everything OEM through my wholesale account.
Okay.
So I think that's the level of growth we're going to hit. Yeah. So I think it's between expanding our wholesale business, and then I think it's going to be, you know, that end product of how do we support the customer? Do we make sure they know that their parts are here? So it's silly, but like they get a text that their parts are here, but they're busy. I don't blame them. They forget. So we've been trying to make sure that every week we do a courtesy call. Hey, no worries, just letting you know your part's here. I know you're busy. It doesn't have to be you that picks up. It could be anyone else. So just little touch points to be more customer service, you know, because
do you do a lot of special orders? Or,
I do a chunk. I do a chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. It depends on, you know, the demands of the customers and what they need.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't shy away from it. I always offer if I can't get it, I can order it.
Right.
You know, again, I go back to how can I make it simple for them?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
But
well, thank you, Maggie, for coming and talking to us.
Thank
and
you for
I
picking
mean,
my brain.
you're an inspiration to a lot of people, I think, for what, you know, what people should be doing at these shows and what you can get from them, you know, and just learning the industry to actually increase business, and you're doing a great job.
I appreciate it. The industry has been very, very good to me, and I just hope one day I can give as much as it's given me, if I'm being honest. As cheesy as it sounds, it's what I believe.
Hey, we're in the cheese state,
We
so
are.
I think we're
I'm
good.
on brand.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. We also invite you to connect with us on powersportsbusiness.com.